University and has received her Master of Science degree in nursing from East Carolina University. She also holds a certification in the care of adult medical and surgical patients. She is a wife, mother, and born again child of the Most High King.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Family Health Matters. I'm your host, Wendy Bridgers, and we are live in the studio on today on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. We are here every Thursday from 3 to 3:30. We invite you to join us because we are talking about things that concerns and things that affect our families because we know that their health matters. Today, I have with me live in the studio my friend, confidant, mentor, colleague, sister, all of those wonderful things that I could say and describe her. But most of all, she is a well-grounded and very intellectual and intelligent young lady, Mrs. Sharon Mallette. She goes way back, and she's been on the show a couple of times before. And today we're talking about one of the things that she is definitely very passionate about. So we're going to be talking today about concerns for seniors living alone. We're concerned about and hoping that we can share some information that would help prevent any injuries or falls or anything like that for our seniors. So Sharon, welcome to Family Health Matters.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I enjoy coming on the show and talking with you. And I agree, talking about the elderly and their care is a very important passion for me.
Great. And I know that you are helping to take care. You are a care provider for your mom. And I often think about how the Lord has blessed you all to have her still present with you. And
Yes.
Even in spite of everything, when I think about her, I think about that she has a purpose. And as long as she's here
Absolutely.
with you all, there is a purpose. And I just admire you and your siblings and the extended family for all the wonderful things that you do for her. I met her a couple of times, but I feel like I know her and I love her dearly. So I'm just excited that you guys are doing and loving on her like you do. So I do appreciate you. So let's jump into our topic today because we've got a lot of things that we want to cover. And I want to just ask you, first of all, just share. I know I've said that this was a passion for you, but just tell us a little bit before we jump into actually talking about some different type of injuries and how we can prevent them with our seniors. Just tell me how this is so personable to you.
Well, I think it's most personal because I've joined the ranks of the seniors. So it becomes important to practice what I preach. But I think one of the things, certainly in working with my mom, we've had to care for her for several years now and to put in place several safety measures to keep her protected as much as possible. In that time period, my siblings and I have all reached that lucky age of 62 to 65 that we consider to be a senior citizen. And so it becomes more important then to participate in safety for ourselves. The better we take care of ourselves, the more likely we're able to help to serve her. As you know, Wendy, even though we turn elderly or older adult at around 62, it is men have a shorter life expectancy. They live to be somewhere around 74, 75, and women about 80. And so between that 65 and 80 time frame, there are several changes occurring in our body that are natural changes, common changes that occur with people that make us more at risk for injury.
Yes. And so that's why I think this is a good time that we'll be talking about this. And I just want to put out here that just in case anybody that's out there listening, either on Facebook or on YouTube or and definitely on the radio, and you want to call in, there is a call-in number, 252-756-2008. So if you want to call in and ask Mrs. Mallette any particular questions or any concerns, or you want to share any of your advice with us and think that it will be helpful to our listeners, we welcome you to do so. Again, the number is 252-756-2008. Okay, so thank you, Sharon, for that introduction to lead us into our conversation for today. So tell us, What are some of the common injuries that you may find or we may hear about with our seniors?
And I'm speaking today for the well seniors for the most part,
Okay.
not necessarily those seniors that are debilitated. And so, for the well seniors, we are at risk for falls. We are more prone to be involved in fire accidents, likely in our kitchen, depending on how we have protected and preserved that area. There's risk for poisonings among the elderly, and there's certainly risk of abuse. And criminal acts. So all of those can result in injury. I think a lot of these, Wendy, become potential for us because of normal, common changes that occur in our bodies. Our vision changes. We notice that starting in our 40s, we can't see as well. Those who didn't wear glasses suddenly need them. Those who wore glasses before find out that their distant vision isn't as strong, and they may need bifocals. We have a little bit of a change in our hearing that occurs. And some of us have that advanced to the point that we may need hearing aids. But you hear family saying, "Can you repeat that? Can you say that again?" And you know then that they're starting to experience some of those changes. Women experience a change in terms of the integrity or the strength of their bones because as we go through menopause, we have a change in the amount of estrogen we have, and it makes our bones a little bit weaker and a little bit more fragile. So, very important to be aware that these aren't things we do to ourselves. These are things that are naturally occurring in our body. We also have the joint changes that occur. The cartilage at the tips of our bones is worn down just by usual wear and tear. If you are more athletic, perhaps some injuries may have made that wear down a little bit more. And then the one we think about often when we think about the elderly is changes in our mind, our brain. Some dementias may occur, some Alzheimer's may occur. But even if those don't become significant for you, there's definitely a change in your memory, your recall, your response to things are a little slower. So all of those changes that occur can contribute to injury.
Yes, yes. I want to jump back to the one that you were talking about with hearing. And I know you mentioned about about the changes in the hearing. But one of the things that I think we could just throw in here, and I read this, and I read this in some of your notes that you showed about wax in your ears,
Mhm.
and I think that that can be something. I know we want the first thing we think about is hearing aids. You know, we need that assistance, but sometimes it could be so simple as increased wax buildup.
Exactly. I think the Q-tip users tend to stimulate the inside of the ear, and it increases wax buildup as we think we're really cleaning.
Hmm.
We're probably not doing that as well, but stimulating wax production. But our regular visits to our physician for your annual each year allows them to check these things. They can check hearing, they can check to see if a loss might be related to wax buildup. They can certainly check your vision and see, what's going on with that. There are tests that can be run for each of these things to check your bones, the integrity in terms of osteoporosis. So there are checks that can be done. When you get into this wonderful age of the 60s, which I'm enjoying, by the way, when you get here, there's other memory tests that can be done just to make sure that your changes in your memory are not at the point that they're affecting your quality of life. So with all of these, as they change differently in people.
Right.
But once they reach this stage of affecting quality of life, that's when we want to intervene, respond to it as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was thinking too that with this, when you said, going in and seeing your primary care, your annual physicals, I think that what goes back to having involving the family, that
Yes.
there is a family member or somebody going with us when we go in for our annual checkups, because sometimes things can get a little hectic, a little busy in a doctor's visit, and people may not have an opportunity for the doctor to check their hearing unless somebody asks them. are you going to look at my mom's ear? Are you going to look at my grandmother's ears? And just out of, just conversation, that can be just as simple to find out that problem with grandma, whoever it is waxes in there, not necessarily that they need a hearing aid. But and I was just thinking about that, the importance of having somebody to go with you when you actually go in for those doctor's visits or nurse visits, or when you go see your primary care provider.
I completely agree. And I think the sooner that happens, the easier it is to be a peer type relationship. If you wait until the person is getting more debilitated, they're a little more resistant. So having it be like a peer experience with an older child, or a spouse coming with you to make sure that they're hearing what you need. But as I talked about, the change in your response time as a typical change that occurs with brain function, a younger person can remember what you wanted to ask, and make sure that your questions are asked. So I think having someone go with you just as a buddy is a wonderful thing, if only for the history part, to make sure all the information gets out there. I recall going with my grandmother to one of her exams. I just happened to be visiting, and I sat there when he did the history and talked to her about her nutrition intake. And she gave him a really glowing report of the breakfast she had eaten. And I was with her for breakfast, and she didn't eat any of that. And he thought that was wonderful. But I was able to say, well, that was great, except what she actually ate was, or she didn't eat at all. And so some of that, because they really want to make the doctor proud of them, and they may not share so clearly information that helps make good decisions for them.
Absolutely. That's a good point. That's a really good point. And I like the way what you said about starting off going as a buddy.
Yeah.
Because senior, well, I was start saying senior, but now you make me want to say we. But we want to remain independent.
Yes.
And we want to feel that we can handle it and that we've got all the answers. So I think starting that process, and that's part of safety, because you want to make sure that the information that's given to the provider is accurate information, so that they can decide as far as what you need medication wise, that all of those medications are going to be safe for your family to take or to continue with. So starting as a buddy and not necessarily going in and saying, I'm going to go in and take over. And I like the part when you said that you allowed your grandmother to offer her information. So we have to make sure that we don't go in, if we do is consider that buddy person to go in, and we don't take over the conversation.
Right.
And the provider doesn't end up just talking to you and not to them, because they have to be present as well.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked. You mentioned about the joints in the hearing and the vision. So what about? Do you think sometimes that seniors deny sometimes when we do the glasses?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I think we can easily deny, because it is not something that we automatically expect. We haven't been old before. So a lot of these things to us are new. The safest thing is to respond to what's happening to you. If your partner or friend, for example, needs more lighting in the room, that seems like extreme lighting, then that's not just them needing more lighting. That's obviously a change in their vision.
Right.
And if they're asking you to talk louder, so you can prompt family members based on those kinds of responses. If they're unstable, the average well adult is not going to want to resort to canes or walkers or anything like that, because that looks like they're not strong or looks like they're not independent. But the safest thing to do is to find out which assistive device works best for you to keep you able-bodied and to keep you moving. So I think that we do have a lot of pride. And it's very difficult to admit where we are in our station in life. But the sooner we do it and the quicker we get on board with support, the better we will be. There's all kinds of physical and occupational therapies that can help us enhance our skill set when we start to have these changes. And so the sooner we admit to ourselves the changes that are occurring, the sooner we can respond to it.
And so on feeding off of that, then how do, if we're offering this to our listeners, And if they have a family member or a loved one or a senior that's sort of denying these things, what kind of any recommendations that you can help share with them to encourage mama or somebody to use a walker? How do you present that to them? As you said earlier, that they, denial and presence or how it looks is their pride is very important. So what could you offer really quickly that may would help somebody to help their senior adjust to saying that they may actually need the walker?
Walker or cane. I think you can certainly decorate one and make it pretty hot for them, so they'll be excited to use it. But I think also to have them in the presence of other seniors who are using those and who are thriving with that. I really like the senior daycares and the senior citizens activities that occur in Pitt County. And I would encourage people to go because they'll see active, well people using what they need to be able to continue to get around. And it's not an admission of age because they're younger people who sometimes need them as well.
Absolutely.
So I would say if they don't like the way it looks, find them a nice decorated one that they might like. And then certainly let them be in the presence of others who are their age and using such devices so they can feel continually empowered by that.
Okay, good. So empower them. Good. Okay, so we have talked about some things that we can hopefully, prevent and some changes that may occur. So what can we do to increase the safety measures that we have in place? What are some things
I think
that we can
first
do?
of all, starting with recognizing the problems, or should I say the changes in your body that are resulting in that. You recognize that and then respond to them as they occur. I started wearing glasses at about 42 because the words were getting smaller on the page and I needed to be able to read them. That was not something that I particularly expected to do, but was studying for big exam at the time and I needed to be able to see. So I got readers and I used them, and I was never going to wear glasses that I had to wear all day. But eventually my sight reached that point, and I had to embrace each stage. I can still see. Being able to see allows me to move around and do what I need to do safely. You guys can trust that when I'm driving, I can see you. So I think, just recognizing these changes as changes that are natural and changes that we can embrace with a response that leaves us independent for as long as possible. And I, for one, certainly want to be independent as long as possible.
Yeah, that's important. That's important. So embracing our change.
Yes.
And that, the saying that, if you're still having changes, you're still having pain, you're still having things going on, that means that you're still alive.
You're still
so
living.
That's a good thing. So what else can we do to our homes to help with safety?
Well, I never thought years ago about home safety, particularly related to anything other than fire alarms. I felt that if you had those and checked those every October, that pretty much that was the issue that people needed to be concerned about. With fires being one of those areas where elderly are often injured, then you certainly do want to keep those fire alarms in place. You want to make sure that you have a fire extinguisher should there be a fire. And you want to make sure that you have an exit plan from your house. That's a front door, back door, depending on where, your kitchen typically is the area where most fires break out. But the other thing is to make sure periodically, if you've been in your home, that you get your electricity checked and make sure your wiring is still good. And that from that perspective, that you stay safe. We may not move as quickly, so we want to certainly expand our chances of getting out safely. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And before we go into the next one, not just having the fire safety plan, but also sharing that plan with your family.
Family.
So if something does happen, they will know where they should look for you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Just from a pure health reason, because I said most of this is the well elderly. But again, as you change in your mobility, you certainly want to be sensitive to the need for some kind of medical alert, especially if you're living alone. You want to make sure somebody knows when you're in trouble and that they can respond quickly. There are systems that can be connected to the emergency response team, such that if you mash your button on your wall or you mash your medallion, if you have that, that someone can come quickly and help you. A lot of elderly live a distance from their children nowadays. And so you do want to have a system that allows someone to come and help you should you get in trouble. So some type of medical alert system.
Okay, good.
I have home security cameras down, and I laughed at that because in history, our home security camera was our neighbor, the person next door who looked out for our house when we weren't there. And so I think that is still a good camera, a good lens to use. We have community watch programs, neighborhood watch programs. If they don't exist in your neighborhood, you do want to create that. But for those who do want a camera system, there are benefits because, as Wendy mentioned, your family can help you monitor or help monitor you through some of the camera systems. So that's definitely an option for people to make sure if there are any criminal issues or safety issues that they can see and help you with that.
And I'd like to add too on that part, we can do calls too, a call-in check. As far as every so often you can make a plan between your siblings and whoever, just every so many hours or whatever, you're going to call and check on whoever your neighbor is or whoever your senior is, just to making sure that they answer their phone, and that anything happens, then if for some reason you normally calls at 2:00 because they're going to be eating lunch or having lunch or something, and they don't answer, that can be a heads up that maybe there's something going on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Okay,
mm-hmm.
very good. So let's really quickly, we got a couple more minutes. Let's talk a little bit about fall prevention.
That's a really big one.
Yeah,
That's the
and I know
one.
we can't really give it as much justice, but we can talk a little bit about it. So can you give us some highlights about that? So we've got maybe about 5 minutes. So
let me point out just a couple of quick things.
Okay.
There are some websites you can go to. The Pitt County Department on Aging has a wonderful video on their website that talks about falls and falls prevention. The North Carolina State Agricultural Extension has a checklist you can use. And I think Secure and Safety Culture has one.
Okay,
so
now I want you to stop and say those again.
Okay. So you can go to places, get a checklist, and check off and walk around your own home and check your personal safety in your home. And so North Carolina Agricultural Extension website has a form that's a checklist.
Okay.
Safety, I think it's safetyculture.com has a checklist. But on your Pitt County Department on Aging website, there's some checklist information, but there's a wonderful video on there that talks about safety. But with that, those things about getting rid of skid rugs, they may be beautiful, but we want to make sure that they have a skid back to them so that they won't slip.
Okay.
Clutter. If you've been in a house a long time, you've built up lots of things along the walls that makes it difficult to go down paths. The more you clear that out, the better. I've certainly had to do some of that myself, but you want those path clears. The stairwells, you want them clear. You don't want to have things on one side of the steps and, force you on the other, because balance is very important. So you want to make sure if you need a cane or crutches or anything like that, you use that for the extent of time that you need to have that. Medication safety is so important, to take your medicine at the right time of day. Because some of it can cause dizziness and make you at greater risk for falls, to make sure you take the right amount. And so the pill boxes help you organize and be able to take the right amount.
I love those pill boxes. I love those. They are very easy to maneuver and easy to follow. So that's great.
Exactly. Install railings if you don't have those. Lighting, if it's not bright enough, make sure it's bright enough, but also get those screenings done to make sure where you are in terms of those common changes of aging, physical changes. Regular exercise is important, and I know you hear that a lot, but it helps keep your muscles strong and helps with your bone strength, so you want to do that. Emergency planning, you want to do that. A list on your refrigerator or on your dresser mirror of your contact people, so that people know how to call for help for you should it be necessary. Yeah. And then health information. Should you have a fall and someone has to rescue you, how will they know your health information? And I have that written down rolled up in a little medication bottle and kind of attached to the refrigerator. And
Wow,
so
that's
that, and you
good.
label it, it's right there. You can point to it and they can grab that and they have what they need to take care of you. So just to name a few things that might help and keep you safe in your homes.
That is great. I love that about the medication bottle. That is awesome about your history, because you're right. If you're unconscious, nobody can tell who you are. So one of the things you talked a little bit about emergency planning, having your contact list and your health information. I know that sometimes we're getting in a place that we do a little bit of traveling. So any pointers that we want to make sure that we keep our safe, because people watch senior homes and stuff as well. So any pointer there?
Yes, I think that one of the things you'll notice when you're out walking in your neighborhood is a collection of newspapers in a driveway, and you know right away that person isn't home.
Right.
So if you're expecting packages, I think you can get someone to pick those up, check your mail. But definitely, if it's newspapers or anything like that, you can have that discontinued while you're away. Any signs suggesting to people that you're not there. The other thing about traveling is any of the safety measures that you practice at home, some of those you need to take, like that information, medical history information, you want to take that with you. Your contact information, you want to have something like that with you as well. Medications, we talked about the pill planners, and that you want to have all those things with you that you keep at home to help keep you safe from a medical perspective. You want to take those things with you as you travel as well.
Absolutely. That was very good. Very, very good information, very helpful information that you shared. And can you just really quickly just share those two websites that you told where we could go and find those checklists again?
Okay. One of them is Safety Culture.
Okay.
And it's one word, .com. And the other one is at North Carolina State University. It's ncsu.edu, but it's the North Carolina State Extension. And they do a lot of research related to agriculture and home safety and things of that type. But both of them have forms that you can download and do like little checklists of for safety factors in your home.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mrs. Mallette, for that wonderful information that you have shared. Time has flown by. It's a lot of information that you can talk about, but I think we did cover the highlights, and I hope this has been helpful to our audience on today, sharing that information, because it is imperative that we take care of each other, and as we grow older, that we embrace growing older.
Absolutely.
And embrace the changes that occur. And just know that we're all better for it, and we're full of wisdom, and we're full of knowledge, and that, our families are there to help support us. And that's why we share this information, so that our families out there can glean from these segments and find things that can help them better care for their loved ones. And as we say, family health matters. The health of our families matter. And again, I am your host, Wendy Bridgers. I have with me today in studio, Mrs. Sharon Mallette, and we appreciate you joining us. We ask that you join us next Thursday from 3 to 3:30 on Family Health Matters here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. Again, we are here every Thursday, and we look forward to seeing you. Join us again next Thursday from 3 to 3:30 on Family Health Matters, because we do believe the health of our families are very important, and it matters. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you again,
Keep
Sharon.
your radio locked right here where you have it, 106.9 Awesome Radio.
Funeral